Welcome to the most complete video on the modern Oregon Trail that is on YouTube. At least I think so. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I've searched previously about trying to find very detailed from start to finish about the Oregon Trail on YouTube, and what I always found was the video game. Lots of from beginning to end on the video game, but not necessarily what the Oregon Trail is today. And actually, I'm on a different kind of famous trail. This is Chisholm Creek Nature Center, and here in Wichita, Kansas, where I live, and the Chisholm Trail actually went through here, and so that's what this park is. So that'd be an appropriate place for the introduction of this video. So back to the Oregon Trail. So in this video, I went through all 6 states, starting in Independence, Missouri, finishing up in Oregon City, Oregon. It was over 2,200 miles. I took 15 days to explore the trail. I went through 357 communities, towns, villages, whatever you want to call them, and dozens of historical sites and landmarks. Like I said, I think it's the most complete from A to Z, from beginning to end, that you'll find on YouTube documenting the Oregon Trail. So sit back and relax. Hope you enjoy the complete Oregon Trail. Standing here in the Independence Square in Independence, Missouri, where we're going to start the Oregon Trail. And you can see behind me this marker is kind of the, it says here the Oregon Trail began. And so the center of the city is probably a good place for us to start as well. A little bit about the Oregon Trail. So the Oregon Trail was kind of set up in the early 1800s, from like 1810 to 1830s, by fur trappers and traders and people who were kind of trying to find, avenues, mostly along streams and rivers out to the west, and a lot of them kind of were the early people to try to figure out the pathway to get to the west. The first people to head out on the Oregon Trail, kind of on the, I guess what you would call the Oregon Trail, is probably in the 1830s. There were only maybe a couple dozen in the 1830s that made that trek and tried to figure out, where the path went. The 1840s was when things really got going, and especially in 1843, that was the year called the Great Migration, where almost 1,000 people headed west. So the main years of the Oregon Trail was about 1843 to 1869. 1869 was when the railroad was extended to the west, and from 1869 to like 1890, there were still some people that did it, but because of the railroad, it was kind of obsolete at that point. I think the reputation of the Oregon Trail is that most people died along the Oregon Trail because of the video game, if you ever played the video game. And a lot of people did die. About 20,000 people died along the Oregon Trail. That was only about 5% of the people that actually attempted to do the Oregon Trail. And so 1 out of every 20 didn't make it. The route is around 2,000 miles, a little over that. And this was actually where multiple trails were. There was the Santa Fe Trail that also started here, or actually that also went through here. The California and the Mormon Trail went the same direction as the Oregon Trail for a long way, and then they broke off later in the west, and we'll show you that later in this adventure. And so this was the Independence is kind of called the Queen City of the trails because of all those trails that started here. Independence is basically now an eastern suburb of Kansas City, Missouri. There's over 100,000 people that live here now, and back in the day when the Oregon Trail was going, there's only a couple thousand people, so it's really grown. It's the county seat of Jackson County. So without further ado, let's check out Independence, Missouri, named after Independence Day, and let's check out Independence, Missouri, and get headed on the trail. My wagon for the next couple weeks, Jeep Grand Cherokee. Wanted to get something that had a little bit of clearance in case I do a little off-roading, and so hopefully this will be a vehicle that does the trick. So before I'm heading out on the trail, stopping by here and checking out this area that behind me is if you see like the swales in the grass, that's apparently from all the wagon trails that went through here. And so they kind of protected this area. One of the few places that you can see things like this in Kansas City. Obviously everything's been paved over and things like that, so they've protected a little bit of it here. So the part of the Oregon Trail that's in Missouri is very short, 20 or so miles. And so in fact, the way the official, if you take the official National Historic Trails route, then you'll go right into Kansas pretty quick. I'm gonna take what I think was the Oregon Trail, which is a little bit more south for a little while in Missouri, and then it kind of goes into Kansas a little more in the southern part of Kansas City. So basically from here, it's Kansas City, and then a lot of suburbs until we hit Kansas. We're here right at the border of Missouri and Kansas at the ghost town of New Santa Fe. Backing up, you know, as you just saw going through Missouri, not a lot to go through and check out in Missouri, mostly because it's just basically Kansas City and it's just a concrete jungle at this point. But some interesting, you know, old wagon ruts and some things like that. Those may not be the most exciting things to look at, but it is interesting to kind of even walk across them and, you know, feel the ground and how, you know, they were rutted for, you know, a couple hundred years ago, and where the wagons actually went through. Here, this is the last point of Missouri before we head into Kansas City. The state line is just really across the street here. And the interesting history with this little town that now is nothing more than a cemetery and then a historical place where they have more wagon ruts. New Santa Fe was originally called Little Santa Fe, and then it became, you know, as the Oregon Trail and the Santa Fe Trail were popular and came through here, it became a, you know, the last town before you got into Kansas. And because that was its downfall, because it was literally almost right on the state border. During the Civil War, it became a town that just got destroyed by, you know, both sides of the Civil War. And Missouri was a slave state and Kansas was a free state, and so it was, you know, just a lot of trouble, and the town eventually was destroyed and nothing much is left except for there's a cemetery now. As we cross into Kansas, we are still, you know, early in day one of this trip on the Oregon Trail. You know, got through Missouri, and now hopefully things will open up a little bit more, and we'll kind of start to get moving. There's going to be more small towns. There will be a couple cities that we'll kind of go through fairly quickly, and we'll check out several historical sites. So let's get started with Kansas. Here's an overview of where we're getting started. This is where we're heading into Kansas from Missouri. You can see the little red dots right here. That's the Oregon Trail, so Oregon National Historic Trail. So I'm gonna follow kind of close to that through some little towns along the way, on over through Gardner, and then as you see it goes up. I'm not following exactly because you can't really go on some of it, so I'm just gonna kind of go somewhere close to it. here between Gardner and Edgerton, Kansas. Right out through here is where the Santa Fe Trail split off and the Oregon, California Mormon Trail went in a different direction. So there's no wagon ruts, but these markers kind of show where the trail went. So goodbye Santa Fe Trail. In from Eudora, we're going to come into Lawrence here, and then we'll be pretty much following right along the trail all the way over to Topeka. Cross the river in Topeka, and then we follow the trail pretty much right along 24 over to St. Mary's. Oregon Trail Road kind of breaks off right here. We'll dip into see Bellevue, and then we'll go back up and follow the trail onto Louisville. So very small cemetery. Obviously they didn't have probably a lot of time, or not able to put together a lot of headstones or something like that. So most of the people just got buried under the ground and right here along the river. So sad area, kind of an unusual place to stop and check out on the Oregon Trail. Once we come into Louisville, we'll head north on 99 on up to Westmoreland. Continue up on 99. Once again, we can't really follow exactly on the trail, but we'll go pretty close to it. We'll actually cut over on some back roads here, and then we'll head over towards Blue Rapids. The trail kind of crosses over this way, but we can't cross over anywhere here. So we'll go up here. We're gonna stay the night in Marysville. End of day one on the Oregon Trail, and I've made it to Alcove Springs, and it's just south of Marysville, Kansas, and kind of fitting to finish here today because this was a destination point for so many of the settlers and the people heading west on the Oregon Trail. This was a great place to stop and rest and camp, and most everyone who went on the Oregon Trail would stop here at Alcove Springs. It's a very refreshing place. I walked down to the springs, and it felt 10 or 15 degrees cooler just walking right down there under the waterfall, I guess you could say, not the springs. But yeah, it's a beautiful little area to end the night on the first day on the Oregon Trail. Today we are starting here in Marysville, Kansas, and stayed at the Heritage Inn Express, and pretty good hotel if you're looking for something like no frills and pretty inexpensive. Nice clean room and good shower pressure. That's always a plus when I'm looking for hotels. But not always a lot of options out there in some of the smaller towns. And but that was a pretty good one in Marysville, Kansas. Today the goal is to get to Hastings, Nebraska, and quite a few little small towns between here and there. We will obviously be crossing over the border, and we are starting here in Marysville, where not only did the Oregon Trail pass near here, and it didn't go exactly through Marysville, but it was close to here. And but also this was the Pony Express came through here, and the Pony Express went along with the Oregon Trail at different parts as well. So we'll probably see some Pony Express stuff as well today. last little bit of Kansas. We're gonna go over here. I'm gonna go up to Bremen, although the trail goes right that way, and then back over to 148 and straight into Nebraska. Why am I standing right in the middle of this street? Because this side is Nebraska, this side is Kansas. So this is Lanham or Lanham, Kansas / Nebraska. So obviously that brings the Kansas portion of this trip to a conclusion. Excited to check out Nebraska and Kansas. It's been awesome. This side is Nebraska, this side is Kansas, and we will be heading into Nebraska. We're gonna see a lot of different stuff in Nebraska. We're gonna go north for a little bit until we get to Kearney, and then we're gonna head west towards Wyoming. Excited to check out Nebraska and Kansas. It's been awesome. We're gonna start our Nebraska part of the tour right here as we're entering from Kansas right here on 148, which becomes 112. We're gonna turn left on 8 over to Steel City and then diagonally head up to Fairbury. Then we'll be heading straight west for a little while over to Hebron. We're gonna take a quick little detour up to Belvedere as the Oregon Trail kind of went through the middle here and then back down and west. Rock Creek Station was a stop along the trail and the Pony Express, and so this historical site, they've kind of sorry, it's kind of muddy. I'm watching my step here, but they've kind of refurbished some old buildings, or they've recreated some buildings, I guess, and some of them are authentic and some of them are kind of newer. But very cool to stop off and check out. As the Oregon Trail kind of went this direction, along there's the railroad right there, kind of along that way, we're gonna go through a bunch of little towns like this. One of the common misconceptions along the Oregon Trail is that a lot of the people who were heading west were killed by Native Americans, and actually most people died by disease, people that died along the way or died other ways, but there were some Native American attacks, and in this area there was some significant raids, and it was along the Oregon Trail where these settlements had set up, and as during the Civil War, some of the men were pulled to the east to fight in the Civil War. And so the Native Americans saw that as an opportunity to drive out some people that were on their land. And so there were many towns that were raided by Native Americans through this area. Eventually, some of the soldiers and men came back, and the raids calmed down. And this is a little pull out here along the Oregon Trail here that kind of explains a little bit of that story. About to begin day 3 on the Oregon Trail, and we are here in Hastings, Nebraska. This is the old train station. Well, now it's an Amtrak station, and you know, all these little towns in Nebraska were built along the railroad, which was built along the Oregon Trail. And so, even though a lot of these towns weren't developed until, you know, after the Oregon Trail, they had a connection. Hastings was such a significant stop that it eventually became the 3rd largest town or city in Nebraska because of it. And there were railroads, you know, and stops throughout the day and night, and a very, very busy place. This is where Kool-Aid started, the invention of Kool-Aid, and the office is right across the street from the train station. Today we're going to get out onto the road, continue heading north until we get to Kearney, which was an important stop on the Oregon Trail, and then start heading west, kind of paralleling I-80 for a while, and our goal is to get to North Platte, Nebraska. From Hastings, we're gonna head straight west for a little bit. We're gonna take a little quick stop here in Juniata, and then head straight west all the way over to Minden. From Minden, we head north, and we're gonna cross over the Platte River right here. And this is gonna be something we follow for quite a while. We're gonna go up here, we're gonna go into Kearney from this direction, but we're gonna backtrack a little bit and see Fort Kearney, and then we'll get back on I-30 and head west. First town I come to, Juniata, I think that's how you might say it. They're having a parade, so I'm not able to go through town, but maybe I'll get a little perspective from above, and you could, you know, the line of people is kind of like what it probably was like during the Oregon Trail, the big line of wagons going down through the area. Turns out it was the 150th anniversary of the founding of the town. I think all 748 people in town were either part of the parade or watching the parade. Pioneer Village is this incredible display of old authentic buildings and like a museum of transportation that has all kinds of, I mean, just, it's crazy how much stuff is in there. It's just a cluttered mass of all kinds of stuff. I can't imagine how much time it took to put this together. It's overwhelming, and you need an entire day to really truly go through and check this out. Fort Kearny was created by the military to be kind of a safe haven for westward travelers. So people on the Oregon Trail would stop here and stay the night. They would kind of gather themselves and get supplies and everything. So this was kind of a big area, or it wasn't actually a big area, but it was an important area for people on the Oregon Trail to stop. They've kind of recreated what the fort maybe used to be like with some of the buildings here in the historical park. Oregon Trail continued to follow the Platte River, and the pioneers could have been on this side, they could have been on this side, but it definitely followed right along. And so we're gonna stay on I-30, and then we're gonna head through multiple towns right along the railroad and right to the north of the Platte River. ending day 3 and pulling into North Platte, Nebraska. Heading west on I-30 with all these little towns along the way. It was interesting how they were all very similarly set up, with the railroad on the left as you're heading west and the town on the right, and starting to kind of open up a little bit. I feel like in the first couple of days there's been, you know, cities and more population, and it does feel like it's starting to open up here as we get into the western part of Nebraska. So today I've found I guess you could say a classic hotel, and I'm not quite sure how nice it'll be, but I wanted to try to stay in as many places like this as I could, even though there are places that might be nicer. We'll be checking out, let's check out the hotel here in North Platte.
Trading post and Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show in miniature. Hope you enjoy. This miniature show has toured the world, and Fort Cody is now a surefire way to get smoking.
Back on the trail from North Platte, Nebraska. North Platte really wasn't a city or stop during the Oregon Trail days, but it was important because the Platte River split north and south at this point. I mean, they're both heading west, but there's a North Platte River and a South Platte River. And there would be, most of the Oregon Trail went along the South Platte River, and then the Mormon Trail, which kind of goes along similar trajectory, they would go on the North Platte River. So kind of interesting that they would choose different sides of the river, or different, you know, it really aren't that far apart from each other. And so what we're going to explore kind of maybe is in between the two. And then we're going to end up in Ogallala today. That'll be our destination. It's only 55 miles from North Platte. But the reason is because once you get to Ogallala, the trail splits in two. There was a main trail that actually went down into Colorado, and then later a cutoff that went a more direct route. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take the Colorado route and then kind of backtrack to Ogallala, which is kind of where that trail split. Starting the day here in North Platte, we're going to work our way west along the South Platte River. More than likely, the travelers went a little bit on the south side of the river. We're going to go on US 30, two-lane highway, which is actually on the north side of the river, so we can go through some little towns. But we will cross over from time to time. There's some wagon ruts right around here, and we'll go on through a few small towns until we get to Ogallala. So I'm driving through all these towns in Nebraska, and they're very similarly set up, where the railroad kind of runs through the middle, and there's an overpass to go from kind of I-30 over to the other side of town. And then there's these bridges, these massive walking bridges. And so I want to show you, because I've been seeing them town after town after town. So I thought, well, I'm going to go at least walk over one. Here's where the trail splits. So we're gonna go pretty much continue heading west, continuing along the South Platte, and this is where we go into Colorado. And as you can see, we don't stay in Colorado very long, back up into Nebraska and continuing to head west. Here at Sydney, we're gonna turn and pretty much go straight north. And this is where the other trail is gonna connect eventually. But today, we're gonna go straight north and we're gonna turn right and head back to Ogallala. So I've completed the main route through Colorado back up into Nebraska, and now I'm going to head back to Ogallala, and here in Mud Springs, which was kind of wasn't a town, but it was a little settlement or something like that. The Pony Express used it as a station. As you can imagine, you know, towns and settlements were few and far between out here, so they had to create a sod station for the Pony Express, and just, you know, was tough. You know, it's tough getting through these areas, and as you can tell behind me, there's blue sky, and then there's a storm coming, and just I can't imagine if someone from the east is, you know, in a wagon train heading west and seeing the kind of weather that you see in this part of the country that changes so dramatically, so quickly. This is actually, listening to the radio, this is a 60-mile-an-hour wind with hail and, you know, coming this way. So that's why I'm getting done with this part of the trail and heading back. But imagine you're in a wagon trail and you have no idea what's coming except for these kind of clouds. And must have been, you know, frightening and wild, and definitely, you know, makes you think a little bit about what they were going through in places like Mud Springs, Nebraska. Today I'm gonna head west pretty directly towards Wyoming, and this was the next part of the route was more of a shortcut that settlers took, that was a more direct route compared to yesterday, which was a little more of a kind of down and around, down into Colorado and up, which was kind of the original route. So we'll see how this looks. There's only a few towns before we reconnect with where we would be yesterday, so it's definitely a shortcut. As we leave Ogallala, you can take a side trip up to Lake McConaughey, and it's about 10 miles north of Ogallala. When I backtracked yesterday, I drove kind of around it, and it's really beautiful. They got some white sand beaches, and certainly a place to go check out, but I would need, you know, days to really do it justice. Ogallala is right down here, so we're gonna basically head south of Lake McConaughey here, and we're gonna continue west and a little bit north for several little towns. And we'll continue west until we basically reconnect with where we were yesterday. once again, this is where we reconnect with the trail from yesterday that went through Colorado, as just a little bit east of Bridgeport. And then we're just gonna continue through many little small towns, many landmarks along the way. We have arrived to Chimney Rock, and it is one of the most significant landmarks on the Oregon Trail. It was the most referenced by pioneers as they were, journaling and writing diaries about their trip. They would come upon this, and then, before we just were at Courthouse and Jail Rocks, that was kind of the first, monolith, you would see coming through the this part of the Oregon Trail. And then they would come here and would see this, and we're just kind of amazed that this was just kind of in the middle of the trip out here. So I think it's weathering away, so who knows how long it'll remain like this. I think it's smaller than it used to be, especially in the 1840s and 1850s when people were in the heyday of the Oregon Trail. Our final part of Nebraska takes us up into Gering. We're gonna go around Scottsbluff. There's a couple different cities kind of in this metropolitan area. And then we'll be right back on the trail heading over towards Wyoming. Now that we have crossed into Wyoming, I would say definitely the last part of Nebraska, the scenery changed quite a bit. There was a lot hillier. You saw the bluffs and the monuments and things like that. So I'm assuming we're going to see a lot more of that as we get into Wyoming, and definitely excited. I've been to Wyoming a couple times. It's always a beautiful state to explore, so definitely excited to get it started. You can see the red dots here. That's the Oregon Trail as we come in from Nebraska into Wyoming. There's no roads that we can drive on right here, so we're gonna have to go on Highway 26. This is as close as we can get, and then as the Oregon Trail is a little bit south of 26, we'll hop on 156 and follow it on up as far as we can, close to that trail, and then we'll go on through Fort Laramie and stay the night somewhere in the vicinity of Guernsey. Pulling near Guernsey, Wyoming, which is, if you're familiar with the Oregon Trail, it's one of the more famous places, but I'm actually going to save that for tomorrow. Not a lot of places to stay in this part of Wyoming, so I got an Airbnb, and let's go check it out. Definitely unique. No phone service, cell phone service. It's a beautiful morning here in eastern Wyoming. Really cool place to stay and had a great night's sleep. Am looking forward to a shower later tonight when I get there to wherever I'm going, which is going to be Casper, Wyoming today. A little shorter drive. There's really not a lot beyond Casper in terms of places to stay at, so that's why I'm staying there. Guernsey has a lot of interesting things and very historical. Obviously, the ruts are fascinating. The registered cliff is a very interesting place to see all the names. Obviously, there's some new names on there that weren't on the Oregon Trail, but there are some from that time, and to think they camped out there. And then right here next to, basically right near in between the two sites, is a Pony Express station. And the more I follow along this trail and see the different stations of the Pony Express, the more fascinating that topic is as well. To think about how they delivered mail from coast to coast in a week or so. Pretty crazy. So yeah, definitely lots to see in Guernsey. And so yeah, let's get back on the road. The Highway 26 goes this way, but as you can see, the Oregon Trail red dots go this way, and there is a road, so we're going to try to go up to Windover, although we can't go any further that way, so then we're going to have to go down and then back up north. See at around Glendo, the Oregon Trail goes in a direction that there really aren't any roads. You could take this road a little bit and go this way, but there's no towns or anything like that. So I'm gonna go kind of a main road, 2-lane road at least, on through some towns, and then we'll get up to Douglas before we get a little bit closer. But unfortunately we can't, we could probably hike it maybe, but we can't drive anywhere through here. you can see the Oregon Trail right here. It does finally kind of reconnect with the road that we're on pretty close. And then it basically does parallel these roads right here. This says 20, 26, 87. So these are some 2-lane roads that will take all the way through. We'll see some little towns and little unincorporated places all the way over until we get to Casper. Just rolled into Casper, Wyoming, and there's a few things I want to see here, but they're closing. It's after 5 o'clock, so I'm gonna have to check those out in the morning. Staying in a hotel that is unique, at least it looks unique. So the room is good for me. I'm low maintenance and was able to get cleaned up and get a shower for the first time in 2 days. So that felt good. Was looking around trying to figure out where to find something to eat, and noticed that they're having the Casper Central Wyoming Fair, and there's a rodeo tonight. So I guess when you're in Wyoming, you know, it's appropriate to go check out the rodeo. So let's go see what's going on at the rodeo.
How many people are here to see the very first rodeo ever? We got newcomers?
Wait, Doug.
What?
They're raising their hands. We gotta get in the rules. That's not okay. You don't raise your hand, you scream. Who's at your first?
Who's here? You better sneak it on down. Come on down, Topher. Here we go. Oh! You help her run barrels. Hurry,
Climb on board, just watch your step. You have to step back. Okay. You'll be fording the North Platte River at Red Buttes.
Everybody ready? I've been back and forth a time or two today, and I think it's okay. Of course, with this river, you just never know. Wagons tip over and people fall out. Just stay down. No matter what happens, don't stand up. I'll take care of this. Just don't stop. Ram them crates, fellas. All right, everyone out of the wagon. Let's get back to the river to help those folks. Everybody out now.
Getting ready to head out of Casper, Wyoming, and it's been, this is a kind of town that you can spend a lot of time exploring. It's a very beautiful town. They really embrace the historical trails. There's, the Mormon Trail, the California Trail, the Oregon Trail, the Pony Express. Checked out the Interpretive Center this morning. That was very cool. But I am trying to get on the road because today, after I get through a couple of the other kind of towns or kind of suburbs of Casper, then I'm going to be more off-road. They're roads, but they're going to be not main roads. They're going to be unpaved roads for a while. And there's not going to be a lot of towns, but it's going to be following the original path of the Oregon Trail pretty close. In fact, the first part of it is called the Oregon Trail Road, and it follows it pretty much exactly where it went. There are two ways to go out of Casper, and the main way is to take 220 right here. It's a paved 2-lane road, but we are going to take the original Oregon Trail route following the red dots this way. It's called Poison Spider Road, and that connects with the Oregon Trail Road that goes on down. Driving through this part and probably hopefully some more parts on down the way, in a virtually untouched area where there's some telephone poles, the road, maybe some cattle guards, a few things like that. But other than that, going through the path the pioneers went down, it's really, really interesting and just really thought-provoking, I guess is the best way to put it. We continue on the gravel road through this area until we connect with 220, that paved road out of Casper. And Oregon Trail basically follows that. We see some cool landmarks like Independence Rock and Devil's Gate. And then right here, we have a couple ways we can go. The Oregon Trail, you can see the red dots once again. There's no road right here, although you could take this road. But what I'm gonna do, because it's a long day and I'm not sure if I might have enough time to get to the destination, I'm gonna go ahead and go down here because I do want to check out this area and see what these towns or little areas are before heading back up and connecting with the Oregon Trail right here. As we head west on 287, there's a ghost town right here, and then we just kind of follow it on over to Sweetwater Station. Anything that I've read about this part of the trip says to go to Lander. So I think if you're, you know, want to stay on the main road, go to Lander. You can stay the night there, and it's, you know, like I said, it's probably 30-40 minutes away. And I've not seen anything talk about this road to the South Pass is what they call it. And so let's see what we can find out. Hopefully it goes all the way through and we don't have any issues. Which is called Hudson Atlantic City Road. Pretty much parallels the Oregon Trail, maybe just about a mile or so north. There is nothing except for gravel and dirt road. Let's check it out. So on the map, here is where we are, and we're gonna go this way along that Atlantic City Road, BLM 2302. We're gonna follow this all the way along. The Oregon Trail is right here. So you can see it kind of parallels right along the river and the lower area here in the South Pass. And we're gonna take that as far as we can. Hopefully we can get all the way through. And then there are some ghost towns right here that we're gonna end that part of the trip at. There is some ways to maybe get over towards closer to the Oregon Trail. So with the drone there, I saw maybe one that we can get over there closer. So let's see, you know, see if we can get over there if the roads are decent enough. So I got this far. It's very steep downhill to there, to this little reservoir lake. And so I'm pretty sure the Oregon Trail is going right through this area. I imagine the pioneers want to stay as low as they could, kind of through this area. So this is it. This is where they would have been going through. And so we'll keep heading west, trying to find our way through and follow as close as we can. So the road has gotten a little bit rougher. Definitely if you're gonna go this way, you wanna have a 4x4 with some clearance or something like that. Like right there, I'm going through a spot. And there's a lot of rocks and stuff. But it's very beautiful. There's absolutely no, I've not seen one car, and only going, you know, 30 some miles maybe. And it's, you know, pretty slow going, but it's really peaceful, and you can always get out and stop and take a break. Or but yeah, I would recommend some sort of 4x4. I imagine in the winter months you definitely don't want to go this way, and if it's raining or muddy, it could probably be bad. I don't have any phone service. You can see how bumpy it is. Don't have a lot of phone service out here either. Those ghost towns that I just went through, I did a lot more filming and discussing them, and I'll be doing a video with all them in a few weeks. So after I post this, then I'll do some ghost town videos again like I have done in the past. The Oregon Trail goes just north of 28. This is 28 right here. And this is the original Oregon Trail, but hard to figure out how to get over there. So we're just gonna kind of go parallel. We're really close to it. Down through here, make a little stop in a couple towns, and then continue on. Basically, it's right on the Oregon Trail after you get past Farson. Continuing on 28, and we do that Green River crossing right here, and then the original Oregon Trail kind of went right along it, and the closest we can get is now on 372. The original Oregon Trail goes this way, and it's very hard to see if that is a path at this late in the evening, if that's worth doing. Probably not. So we're gonna go on down. We got to kind of go down here, so you can't go through anywhere and drive through anywhere here. I guess we could go here, but I want to go down because there's a couple towns off the map here, and then back on basically Interstate 80, but also Highway 30. So 30 and 80 is now we're heading into Granger, and then we're back on the Oregon Trail. So the Oregon Trail connects right here at Granger. This drive in to Lyman has been really beautiful. So sunset is with the clouds has made it a really nice way to drive on in the last few miles. as we head out of Lyman, we're gonna go this direction, check out Fort Bridger, and from Fort Bridger, we're gonna go back, and the Oregon Trail basically goes this way, and we're gonna go on 412, heading up north. Fort Bridger is a unincorporated town. I think there's probably hundreds of people in this area, but it's not an actual town. But the main thing to see here is the state historical site is Fort Bridger. Very interesting history, and it was started in the 1840s by a guy named I think his name was Jim Bridger, and he was described as a mountain man, and he ran this fort from 1840s to the 1850s, and was a very popular place for people to stop and get resupplied because of what they'd just gone through. It was a very difficult journey that I went through yesterday, but it took them obviously weeks to go through what I went through yesterday. And I can understand getting here, they needed some to get some supplies, and Mr. Bridger was able to help with that, and he built a settlement here, and the end of it came, for him at least, came because the Mormons were also on that same trail. It was the Mormon trail, and it actually split off here and went towards Utah. But a lot of the Mormons ended up staying here and settling here, and got in conflicts with Bridger. And he wanted to sell alcohol. The Mormons didn't want to sell alcohol, and he was either forced out or he sold it to the Mormons. And not sure exactly which one happened, and so he left the fort. The Mormons had control of it for a little while, and then the military took it over until 1890 when it was abandoned, and now they have made a state park out of it, historical site, and so they have some actual, behind me is kind of the actual real places of Fort Bridger, and then they have places like all along the trail that they're recreating, that they're trying to tell the story of what happened. And so they're rebuilding some of the towns. They have the layout of it, and then just over time they're rebuilding the fort. So it's kind of cool that they have some of the original buildings. Once again, we get to a point at the Oregon Trail where it goes in a direction that we just simply cannot drive through. So best thing we can do is continue north. This connects there at 189. We're gonna head 189 up to a few little towns up here. And in our final stretch through Wyoming, we're gonna turn left, getting back on US 30 before we go straight north on 30 and 89. Our last town, kind of reasonable sized town, is Cokeville, and then up to the border where we enter Idaho. I've crossed over to Idaho, definitely excited for a new state, and I've kind of crossed over. I'm currently driving, I turned left there at the border, and now I'm driving on Border Road. And the Oregon Trail kind of split a little bit, the map that I have, and I want to go see, this way looks a little less traveled maybe. We cross over into Idaho, right here on US 30, and we're gonna head south on that Border Road, and then we're gonna turn right. You can see the red dots of the Oregon Trail, how it's kind of split two different ways. So we're gonna follow this little southern part that goes back around and connects right up here in the little possible town of Alton. And then we're gonna be right back on US 30 for the rest of the day, as we're gonna go up through some towns up here. And we'll be following the Oregon Trail right along US 30. There's a few towns along the way that are just a little bit off there, so we'll maybe go check those out. But pretty much we're following right on US 30 all the way to Soda Springs, where we'll be staying the night there. This is where US 89, which was my summer trip last year, and the Oregon Trail intersect right here in Montpelier, Idaho. As you can see, the clouds are rolling in, and I'm rolling into my destination of Soda Springs, Idaho. And so gonna probably wait till tomorrow to explore around Soda Springs, since it's kind of it's looking a little grim, but definitely got through the day. That was the goal, and excited to get some rest after today. So staying at another classic hotel. So let's see what this one's like. I had the option of sharing a bathroom or not. Paid a couple extra dollars for the private bathroom, so let's check it out. Good morning. I'm in Soda Springs, Idaho, and behind me is the world's only captive geyser. And that means they control it, and it erupts once an hour. So it's an actual geyser, but it's capped and it's controlled to be kind of a tourist attraction. So Let's start our day in Soda Springs here with eruption of a geyser. It's supposed to happen on the hour, so we'll see how accurate that is. And then we'll show you around Soda Springs and then head a couple different directions today. The trail is splitting right here. The Oregon Trail, the original Oregon Trail, is going to go north. I'm going to try to go down some back roads and see if I can make it that way. It looks like kind of, back roads all the way. And then I'm going to double back and then go back up kind of through some main roads, which would be the normal tourist route to go, especially if you don't have, like four-wheel drive or something like that. So I'm going to go two different ways and show you both different routes today. Start the day here in Soda Springs. We're heading west right along the Oregon Trail. This is where it splits, and we're gonna first take this route. So the Oregon Trail, the dots go right this way. We're gonna take it as far as we can, and then since we can't, there's no roads right here, we're gonna cut over and make sure we connect with any town that's along the way there. Once we get over here, so this is the Lander cutoff that comes from Wyoming. So we didn't go that way, but just to give you a point of reference, this is where we're eventually gonna connect over here on a different map. But we're gonna get up here, and then the Oregon Trail goes this way. As we flip the map, this is where we're gonna attempt to go. The road does not look very good right here, but we're gonna see what we can find. And then this would be where we connect with the Lander cutoff eventually. If we can't go that way, we may have to turn around and go back north on the other page. Once we get connected with the Lander cutoff, we are in the Fort Hall Indian Reservation. Then we will head on over to Fort Hall, head south towards Pocatello, and then we'll go back to where we started the day. So I got all the way up to almost where the Lander cutoff is, and I found this sign that says I'm in the Fort Hall Indian Reservation and it's restricted access. And I always try to follow the rules of signs if I ever see something like that. But I really wanted to go this way, but I wasn't going to. I actually had one bar of cell phone service, so I was going to try to call the number I could find for the Indian reservation and ask if I can drive through here. And then while I was literally getting ready to call, a local rancher came through where I was going, and I asked him, and he said, as long as you stay on the road and you're just driving through, shouldn't be any issue. So that's where we're going to head. We're going to head right through the Fort Hall Indian Reservation. We're getting ready to meet up with the Lander Cutoff and then head west towards Fort Hall. I don't think there's been too many people drive on this part of the Oregon Trail. I kind of feel privileged. That's the grass. Has been mowed here very much, but certainly you need a high clearance vehicle and four-wheel drive if you're going to attempt this. Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done, but pretty cool out here. It's really, really beautiful. The road leaves a little bit to be desired. I just don't think it ever gets used. This guy does not want to get out of my way. He's been leading me down the path. Another reason I was reluctant to go through the Indian Reservation is because COVID really affected Indian reservations pretty significantly. When I was on Route 66 a couple years ago, you couldn't go in any of the towns, and I think there's still some reluctance to have outsiders into the reservation. So I haven't seen anybody yet. This has been an unbelievably kind of treacherous drive. So definitely do not take a car if you go this way. Probably just shouldn't go this way anyways, but yeah, I am on the actual Oregon Trail, probably going about as fast as one of the wagons did back in the day. The road is getting a little better. This is way better than what I've been driving through. That was a tough drive. I would not recommend going that way. I'd recommend going up a little bit farther north and then taking Lone Pine Road this way. But I made it. Thank you to the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Hopefully when I turn it in in Oregon, when I get to my destination, I don't have to pay too much extra for any damage. But it looks pretty good. Definitely you need to make sure you have a great vehicle to get through there, because if you break down, get a flat tire, I mean, there's no phone service. You have a long way to go anyway. I'm still a long way now from anywhere, but even back there, the only things I saw were a few birds and some cattle, and they were reacting to me like they hadn't seen vehicles come through there very often. So I've made it to the Narrows Road, great name, and right that way is where, right here at this intersection, from whatever, I don't even think that road had a name, to here is where the Lander Cutoff and the Oregon Trail met, right here. And so from here they connected and they went straight that way towards Fort Hall. Talked about how the railroad followed the Oregon Trail, and look at where they put the railroad, man. And this does not really even kind of do it justice. So I just got stopped by some maintenance guys that work here on the reservation, and I explained what I was doing. They were super nice. They said there aren't very many people that do what I'm doing, so but yeah, they thought that was cool. I was trying to follow the Oregon Trail, and they were very knowledgeable about how it goes right through here. So we're almost back to a main road, so we're getting closer. goals is on this trip is to try to just imagine going through there. And there were ruts, like you maybe saw in some of the videos. There were ruts everywhere, and obviously they weren't wagon ruts. They were ruts made by vehicles or by drainage. And constantly I'm trying to figure out where to go, where to put the wheels. I just can't imagine, you know, what it was like for those pioneers to go through that and all throughout the trail. So, you know, it puts it in more perspective when you really get out here and you experience the exact areas, the exact paths that the Oregon Trail was in the 1800s. It's remarkable. Now on the more touristy main route, we're going to be back here at Alexander. We're going to head straight west on US 30. We're going to take US 30 all the way until it basically hits Interstate 15. We'll stay on US 30, but it's going to parallel with US 15 as we head north. We'll continue to head north and follow I-15 and US 30. It curves this way and eventually gets to Pocatello. The Fort Hall replica museum is there. Even though Fort Hall is up here, the museum is right here. I think they put it there maybe to get in a little more populated area. So we're gonna see some things. It's one of the bigger cities we've been to for a while. After leaving Pocatello, there's not a lot of places to stop or do stuff between there and my stop for the day, American Falls. So I'm gonna roll into American Falls, check it out. I was trying to find somewhere to stay, and there's only a couple hotels that I could find, hardly anything I could find online, maybe only one hotel. And when I called earlier today, nice lady answered and said, give me a call back 30 minutes before you get here. So it didn't take my name, didn't take a reservation. I was like, are there gonna be rooms available? And she said, yeah, there'll be rooms available. So I don't even know how much it costs. I don't know. I tried to do everything I could to find out about the hotel, and I think maybe they just opened, you know, like last week. So I've not made all good decisions today. So we'll see how this one turns out. Today we are leaving American Falls and continuing through Idaho, and we are going to end up in the Boise area. And I think we're gonna go past Boise a little bit, and then gonna actually stay in Boise tonight because I'm gonna backtrack the next day a little bit and take another route. And we're gonna be connecting with the Snake River now, and you know, that was such an important thing for the travelers to have access to water. As we start the day in American Falls, the interesting thing on the map is you can see that some versions of the Oregon Trail went through what is now the American Falls Reservoir. So that wasn't there at the time, and it went through there a couple different ways, but it all kind of ended up here in American Falls. Once we get started today, we are gonna head, kind of the only thing we can do is get on the expressway, so it's 30 and 86. The Oregon Trail runs right along 30 and 86. And then right here is going to be the parting of the trail. California Trail goes this way, and the Oregon Trail will continue along 86. The original place that you would cut off and go to California was right here. And we're just, I don't know, a little bit south and west of American Falls, probably 20 miles. This is 1843 to 1848. I think this is kind of the main way that people would head to California. And then they found that other cutoff earlier in the trip, and would make this trip a little bit shorter. So, but this was the point where the Oregon Trail and the California Trail were split for good. As we're coming in on 30 and 86, you'll see the Oregon Trail is a little bit south. We can't drive there, and but we'll get over there as soon as we can here on 81. And then we'll follow it pretty much along the trail. It becomes 30, Highway 30 right here. It follows basically along the Snake River. We're going to go up and check out a few places along that way, some towns, but generally we're going to follow 30, maybe a little bit off of 30 as we go through these towns into Twin Falls. This doesn't have anything to do with the Oregon Trail, but a different kind of pioneer. In September 8th, 1974, Evel Knievel attempted to jump from that over the Snake River to land right here.
You released prematurely. She started to roll, and she's coming back this way now. And there's the top chute is out, the main chute is out. There she goes. She's into the rim of the canyon. Going to crash, obviously, into the river.
Heading out of Twin Falls, goes once again, the Oregon Trail goes right along the Snake River, and we're going to be as close as we can. We'll take roads like this, or maybe cut over and kind of take some shortcuts, but generally be in the vicinity. And then a little bit past Buell, we'll head north. We're going to follow 30 north, right along the Snake River. Pretty much the Oregon Trail. We lose the Oregon Trail right here as it goes off into some areas that aren't very drivable, so we're going to have to go this way around and then connect with it again in Glenns Ferry. Here in Glenns Ferry, this is where the Oregon Trail splits. We're gonna go this way first. We're gonna take the roads that are as close to that as possible as we cross over this other red dots, that's the Continental Divide. So we're gonna cross over the Continental Divide on some backcountry roads this way, and we'll basically take backcountry roads all the way up until we get to Boise. So that was a very interesting drive up the original Oregon Trail. You know, highly recommended. You know, it was it wasn't that rough. The road was pretty good, but it was certainly windy and some dangerous, probably cliffs. It was also very hot today, over 100 degrees. And it made me think about like those pioneers. They had to have some days just like this. It would have been almost this time of the year in July. And that would have been a very tough stretch to go through. So man, it'll be interesting to see how it compares to the southern alternate route that we do tomorrow. We come off the backcountry roads right here. You can see the Oregon Trail goes this way. There's nowhere to drive that way, so we're gonna take the expressway into Boise, and then it gets very crowded, a lot of population obviously, and the Oregon Trail goes right along 2026, and we're gonna take that as much as we can. We're also gonna pop up and go into some little towns that were right along the Oregon Trail too. Almost to Oregon on this route. We are going right along 2026, which is the Oregon Trail, through some final little small towns up to Old Fort Boise. And this is the Oregon border. And so we're gonna get up to here, we're gonna turn around, and then we're gonna stay the night in Boise. Starting today in Glens Ferry. So we've gone from Boise, we've backtracked down about an hour to Glens Ferry to take the south alternate. Right here, people made a decision. They either crossed there at Glens Ferry, which was also called Three Islands Crossing, or they continued along the south part of the Snake River in what's called the south alternate. And it was not necessarily a shortcut or even easier, but it did avoid that really difficult crossing. And so this goes into what's called Owyhee country. There's actually an Owyhee desert up here or down here compared to where we were. I've read that it's you know, very wide open. There's some quirky places along the way. There's not a lot of towns along the way. Maybe some things that are kind of ghost towns, or, you know, they were more significant than they are now. So let's take the south alternate back to Glens Ferry. Yesterday we took the backcountry roads this way. Today we're gonna go over here to Hammett, and then we're gonna basically go on 78, and this will be the south alternate route. There's just a couple towns. The Oregon Trail goes right along the Snake River here. and there's really not anywhere to drive through most of that, so we're gonna have to stay on 78. There's a few little towns to go, and basically we're paralleling the Oregon Trail as close as we can. So there's a super nice lady there. Her husband actually started this museum, and he passed away just a few months ago. And so she said, she was asking me if I know anybody that's interested in buying a museum. So, but there were so many buildings. She showed me just a few, and remarkable collection of things here. And I can't imagine they get too many visitors. Final stretch of the Oregon Trail on the south alternate route takes us south and west of basically Boise, which is over here, and Boise in the metropolitan area. So south and west of that, the Oregon Trail goes right along. This is 78 and then 55, and just different roads to go as close as we can on the Oregon Trail. And then we get through Homedale, and then here's the border. We're gonna go into Oregon. That'll be the next video. And then we connect with the other trail, which obviously isn't too far apart, but we'll connect with that other trail in the next video in Oregon. We have crossed over into our final state, Oregon, and when the travelers got here, I think they got a little bit of a, you know, pep in their step, because they realized that we're almost there. But what they found out was still a long way to go and some tough travel ahead. And so now that we're in Oregon, we're gonna kind of follow the into the Snake River portion of the trip, which we've been following for a long time, and then we'll split off and kind of head kind of north and west. We enter Oregon from Idaho right here on 19. The Oregon Trail is the red dots once again. This is on the south alternate route that we came in through Idaho. So we're gonna come in this way, head north on 201, and the Oregon Trail goes this way, the south alternate, and you can see the original main route goes this way, and they connect right here. We're gonna go up and check out this town real quick, and then head back down and connect right here, and then on up the way. Once again, we're gonna do some backcountry road exploring along the original Oregon Trail. So far, it's worked out pretty well. Once we get north of Vail just a little bit, the Oregon Trail goes this way, and there is a kind of backcountry road, it looks like, to go this way. Although we're not quite sure if it'll go all the way through. So you can see the Oregon Trail goes this way. Right about here, the map shows that the road might not go through. So when you come to a gate like this, you know, you look for no trespassing signs, but it may be just a gate that's closed to keep the animals from going through it. So we're gonna cautiously move forward and see if we can continue on this way, this is the actual still original Oregon Trail. Well, I think I went about as far as I can go. That's the Oregon Trail, but no trespassing. I'm gonna follow the sign, although I'm not sure. I haven't seen anyone for a long time, so probably could keep going, but not gonna chance it. Found a nice spot here, the Love Reservoir. Nice place to stop and take a little break, but so I gotta backtrack a little bit, and still not quite sure how the road is getting out of here. So yeah, it's an adventure, and but feeling, you know, I don't know, I've gone as far as I can go legally on the Oregon Trail here in this path, and can say that this is exactly where they were going, and I can I'm literally in their footsteps. Had to back out quite a ways to be able to turn around. Couldn't even turn around anywhere there. Anybody is actually trying to go the Oregon Trail, just know if you get there, you're gonna have the decision to make to trespass or not. So I decided not to. There was a couple more gates I had to open that had been closed. Like there were 2 more towards the end of there. And so, you know, if you want to go that way, you know what there is. So now we're back on the expressway. It's the only way to head to our next destination. So let's resume on the paved roads. So what we had to do was we took this road right here, and that got us over to 84 and 30, and then we were able to connect back with the Oregon Trail here. So couldn't go all the way through, but we got there eventually. And then we'll follow 30, US 30, which basically parallels 84 all the way up. There's a couple small towns, and we'll take that all the way up to Baker City. We've been following the Snake River for a long ways, and then we left the Snake River kind of through where that back road country that I was just in. And here, this is called Farewell Bend because they met up with the Snake River just briefly right here as they kind of went through that dusty, difficult, dry part. But they met up here, and they would camp here, and they kind of, you know, hopefully get some rest and get ready to go for another overland kind of journey until they got to the Columbia River, which was the next big body of water. So this was an important place where people would settle and hang out and just get some rest. So after that drive, I felt like I needed a little bit of rest. Arrived to Baker City, destination for the night, and staying in the appropriately named Oregon Trail Motel, and is one of the least expensive hotels along the way. So you never know what you're going to get when you do that. But let's there's a lot to see in Baker City, but let's get checked in first, and then we'll check out the city. So I thought it would be appropriate, since I'm starting my first full day in Oregon, to go check out some of the authentic wagon ruts here near Baker City. There's, you know, the Oregon Trail is about 2,100 miles, and there's around 300 miles of wagon ruts. So it's quite a bit, but some of them are pretty far off and hard to find. But here in Baker City, near the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, which is unfortunately closed right now, you can find some of the wagon ruts. So it's hard to see probably on the camera, but there's definitely grooves in the area, and while looking at wagon ruts might not be the most exciting thing you can imagine, well, that's the Oregon Trail right in front of us, and a wagon train heading far into the distance. Out of Baker City, you can go a couple different ways. You can take the Interstate 84, which is closer to the Oregon Trail, but I'm gonna go over on US 30 through Haines and then reconnect with it here in North Powder. One of the things when driving in small towns that you want to get good at is the finger wave. You know, you see somebody coming, and you don't see very many people some of these places. You just give the one finger, you know. I noticed a lot of the women, they do a wave, and I don't know if they do that with other women or if they do that just with guys, but usually guys, one finger, and just do it every time you see somebody in a small town. Most of the time you're gonna get it in return. Pulling up to La Grande, Oregon, and it might seem like another town along the way, but I know that my friends Cole and Rachel are actually camping out here, and they have their YouTube channel, Working for the Wild. So I actually saw them when I was in Boise, and we hung out, and then they're continuing on their trip, and it happens to be right along the Oregon Trail, and I'm stalking them on the Snapchat map. So we'll see if I can, if how accurate it is, and if they're there. We'll see if they're there when I pull up. Found them. We'll see if, hopefully they're here. I found you guys.
How did you find us? Did Cole tell you where we were?
I stalked you on Snapchat.
Oh, I was gonna ask if you, I posted a TikTok that's getting a lot of controversy.
This is your office?
This is my office.
See your office.
I have my laptop. That's about it. Cole's in the
Look at this guy.
What's going on? I heard the honk and I was like, that looks like a Jeep.
What's up?
Lady Bird.
Hey.
Lady.
Hi.
This is where I work. Got my little secondary monitor.
Sweet.
Got the bed over here.
So are you working or the wild? Which one are you?
I'm definitely the wild, as you can tell.
You can watch them. Rachel does an awesome job on their videos. It's called Working for the Wild. I'll put a link in the description. follow the interstate as the Oregon Trail goes just south of that, but there's no roads there. We'll follow the interstate as far as we can, and then eventually we're going to get to a point right here where there's an immigrant trail scenic road. I was going down what I thought was Immigrant Road Scenic Drive, and I don't know, I think I've gotten far enough. I got to a clearing here and I took my drone up, and it just doesn't seem like, it must be a walking path more than a driving path. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to turn around. Last couple of days I've gotten stuck going about as far as I can go, but there's a path, but I think I got quite a ways to go before there's an actual road, so I don't want to get stuck in the middle of nowhere too bad. And it was getting pretty rough, and I have no phone service. And I just found this. Time to turn around. I've read the map wrong, so I think this is the road. This is the Immigrant Scenic Road. It's hard to know when you don't have a phone service, and can't tell if roads are paved or not based on the way they're drawn on the map, but I think now I am going the correct way. The map is filled up with a lot of options here. As you can see, you can go multiple ways. The touristy way to go, the quicker way to go is going to be to follow the expressway on this way on up to Columbia River. But the Oregon Trail kind of original route, you can see the dots, kind of goes this way. So we're going to stay on the backcountry roads up through Echo, and then there's the Oregon Trail Road right here. We're going to take that over to this spot, and then there's no roads that we can go on right here. So we're gonna go, you could go north back up to the expressway or south on 207. So we're gonna head south, and we're gonna work our way through some back roads. And these are all probably back roads and 2-lane roads to get to the Oregon Trail about right here. And then once again, working our way over to about Cecil. Here in Cecil, the Oregon Trail goes this way. Certainly back country roads to go that direction. You could also take 74 and connect with the expressway if you want to go that route, but we're going to go this way, and hopefully the road goes through. You could also get here and go to Arlington, and then, but we're going to go over to here. Those are ruts right there. There's several of them around here. And once you get here, I've got this road highlighted because I'm not sure you can get all the way through right here. We'll have to go down here and see. And at McDonald, if there's a way to go across, there's a river right there. If we can't do that, then we may have to turn around. But hopefully we can get through. This is the road I just came down to, McDonald's Ferry Crossing, which doesn't look like I can go anywhere. Maybe I can keep going down that road, but right here would be a crossing, and there's a historical site. I'm assuming it's on the other side of the river. So that's probably where I'm trying to go, on the other side of the river. Go that way or this way. Was hoping that would go through, but no trespassing, no vehicles, it said, so not gonna chance it. Gonna have to backtrack all the way to Rock Creek. Like we talked about, we couldn't get through right here. So unfortunately we can't go right here. So we're gonna have to backtrack over to here and then take the Blaylock Canyon. And then once we get up to the Columbia River, we're gonna head back west along it. And so we wanna get to the Oregon Trail as quick as we can. The closest way we can do that is to turn at Rufus and head to here, and then head towards the Columbia River this way. Got a little peak there at the Columbia River, and but that wasn't quite where the pioneers would see it yet. So we're gonna head back down so we can catch where the trail, pick the trail back up near where we left off before, and then we'll head towards where the pioneers actually saw the Columbia for the first time. can imagine what it would have been like to come over those, through those canyons and to see the Columbia River. It's very impressive. It's much larger than the Snake River, so this would have been, you know, probably an exciting time for those pioneers. We have reached the Dalles, and this was the place where they would either decide to float the rest of the river, which is kind of crazy to think about, or they would go by land, kind of south from here. So we're gonna go both of those ways, show you both routes, but we're gonna do it starting tomorrow. I am right here on the beach at the Dalles here in Oregon, and this would be where the travelers would have the big decision to either float down the river in multiple different ways, whether they turn their own wagon into a boat, or they bought a boat from a Native American, or they rode on a boat, you know, like a company that would organize boat trips down the river. So this was a decision where they either did that, or they would take the Barlow Road, which was to continue on down path in a wagon, which that came a few years later after thousands of people would get here and they would have to kind of wait. So sorry it's windy. Right on the water here with the Columbia River behind me, state of Washington across the way, got I-84 right here. So we're gonna take today, we're gonna go down the river version, not gonna ride the river, unfortunately, that would be pretty cool. But gonna drive most of the way on US 30, which was also, this has followed this trail for a while. US 30, AKA the Lincoln Highway, one of the original roads in the United States. It's a scenic kind of drive down the way through a bunch of small towns until we get to Troutdale. And that'll be our adventure today, is to get down to Troutdale. That's where the boats would be they would stop the boats and say, get out here, and then they would finish up their trip just a little bit south of there to Oregon City. So we're gonna take about an 80-mile drive down the coast and see what it's like. And as the travelers would be here, I'm sure it'd be very exciting, but also it's very dangerous to go down this river in a wagon or any kind of a homemade boat or anything like that. So towards the end, but they still had a little bit of work to do. We have gotten to basically where the pioneers would get out and then go across land to Oregon City, not very far away. Lewis and Clark actually found this river, and they were trying to go across it, but it's very soft and very sandy. They called it Quicksand River, and eventually it became the Sandy River. And as you go that way, it runs into the Columbia River that we've been following. So the settlers, the travelers, they would go down that Columbia River, and they would get somewhere in the vicinity of that and the Sandy River, and then they would have a decision to make again, whether they take their wagon, put it back into with the wheels on it and head that way, or whether they would buy a new wagon here, or whether they would just maybe walk the rest of the way. And a lot of the trail people would walk anyways. So you get this far, it's not that much farther to Oregon City, and they maybe just end up, taking their supplies and walking the rest of the way. So they were basically home free once they got here. Now that I'm back at the Dalles, I will start heading south just a little bit today, and I'll explain more about the Barlow Road tomorrow. What a great little town, 600 people, but awesome hotel, obviously, live band in a bar, and I just stumbled across all this cool stuff. So great place for the next to last day of the Oregon Trail. The final day on the Oregon Trail on this 15-day adventure always is bittersweet when you're coming to the end of these trips, and it's you think back about the journey. And I'm gonna, at the end of this day, I'll give my kind of overall thoughts on the trip, but also still got quite a bit going today. We're gonna take the Barlow Road, closest as we can get. And there's back roads, and as you found out in the last few days, they don't always go all the way through. And hopefully today they do. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to be get stuck again and have to turn around, but hopefully it goes all the way through. This was the road that was built a few years after people started going down the Oregon Trail as kind of an alternate to going down the river. And so a lot of small towns, well, not a lot of small towns, but if there are towns, they're going to be small, mostly all the way until we get to Oregon City. We start the day here, and we're going to head straight south. There's a couple different ways you can go. You can see the Oregon Trail goes right along these red dots. There's no roads there. The closest we can do is take some side roads to get over there. So that's what we'll do, and then follow it as much as we can. You really can't go through here, so we'll have to cut over and hop on 197, where we connect again with the Oregon Trail at Ty Valley. Here we have a choice to make. We can either take the kind of more probably paved main road of 216 around, or more back roads, which we're gonna take. The Oregon Trail goes pretty close to these roads, so we're gonna take that as far kind of west as we can, and we're gonna try to find Barlow Road. The Barlow Road is mentioned right here, but it doesn't appear there's any road in that area that is drivable at least. So we'll take kind of the Old White River Road as far as we can, and we'll see if we can connect with the Barlow Road somewhere right around here. So right through there is where you would connect with the actual Barlow Road. I don't know if this is gonna be out for the whole way of Barlow Road or if it's just a part of it. So there's another place that maybe connects up a little bit farther. Since we couldn't get on the Barlow Road, we're gonna go back on the Old White River Road. You can see it's very close. It parallels pretty much right next to the Barlow Road and the Oregon Trail. But that's the road it looks like we'll be taking most of the way, all the way until we get to the south of Mount Hood, right here near Government Camp. So that's the road that I was trying to enter previously. This is the end of that, and I have found this, and now that's me parked over there. And let's see, looks like we will be able to go down the Barlow Road after all. Well, I took it as far as I could. I saw the bridge out sign, but I didn't see a bridge. But obviously there's trees in the way now. And actually I walked down a little farther and continued to be more trees. So probably is a bridge out, but maybe the trees are there on purpose to keep people from going all the way to where the bridge is. So gonna have to backtrack and then take kind of the paved road that we were on. Still cool that I was able to go down the Barlow Road for even a couple miles. Very historic place, and right through here, I mean, this is not an improved area. This is probably not much different than what it looked like back when the pioneers were taking their wagons through here. Now the Oregon Trail goes right along US 26, and we'll take that all the way to the west through lots of different little small communities. I knew this was going to be a dead end. It said half a mile down the way, but it's pretty cool to continue driving along these roads, and it looks like a hiking path goes where the cars won't go. And honestly, I think coming to the realization that the trip is almost over and I'm just trying to extend it as long as possible, and I just happened to see the Barlow Road sign along the main road and thought, well, let's go check it out. You can stay on US 26 to go to Sandy, but the Oregon Trail, those red dots are more north of US 26, so we will take those back roads. Looks like probably a little more of a scenic drive until we get to Sandy, and then the Oregon Trail crosses over 26 and heads on 211 over to Eagle Creek. At Eagle Creek, the Oregon Trail would be crossing over the Clackamas River, but we can't cross over, so the best we can do is go around this way and then down to connect with the Oregon Trail here. And then once you get through this area, we're getting close to the finish. You can go a couple different ways, and I'm gonna stay just on the north here all the way into Oregon City. I have made it to Oregon City, and I'm currently in the Oregon City Historic Cemetery. And the reason I thought I would take a seat here and kind of wrap up the trip is because there's so many people buried here that made that trip that I just made. And you can look at all the different, headstones, and there's so many of them from the 1800s that obviously they would have had to travel here from that main period from 1843 to 1869. And after getting done with the trip in 15 days and doing it the way I did it, obviously you just watched it, just unbelievably remarkable to think about what those people did and how it took months and months and months to get here and how they must have felt when they got here. But going back and thinking about the excitement of it at the beginning when you're at Independence, Missouri, the optimism, and then going through Kansas, which wasn't a real long trip, but you know, was definitely getting the trip started. Nebraska would have been probably testing them because it was a long way through Nebraska, and you know, pretty straight and tough, and you know, probably in the summertime when they were going through there, is probably pretty difficult conditions to go through there. Then they would come into Wyoming when they really would start to see some hills and mountains, and you know, that had to have demoralized them. And but if they were able to keep going, they would have been met with more of the same in Idaho and you know, parts of Oregon. So yeah, it was just a remarkable trip to think about what they did and to get here, and the adventure that it must have been. You know, it's not like back then you would take vacations and go see the world very often. But when you start thinking about all of those different states and all the different things that we saw here throughout this trip, if they got to the end, which most of them did, 95% of them did, then it would have been quite the story to tell and memories to have. Knew it would be a historical lesson in going through and learning about all the different places, but it was really, really scenic, especially the last half of it. So really a great mixture. If you're just doing it for a road trip, it's going to be a very scenic road trip, but you're also going to learn a ton of history. Hopefully these videos inspire you to go out, and whether it's the Oregon Trail or some other road trip, go out and learn a little bit about our country and have a little bit of fun along the way. So there's one last place to go. The official end of the trail is at the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center. I think that's what it's called. It's basically the Oregon Trail Museum here in Oregon City. So let's go there and wrap it up. It's so nice that they threw me a party. I appreciate you putting this on for me.
Our pleasure. We heard you were coming, so this is obvious what you impressed us with, that we needed to impress you.
Would stop here at Alcove Springs. Whew! I ran here, I was a little tired. Hastings was so significant. There comes a train. Hastings was so significant that it became Conehead. Yeah, this is what happens when you go traipsing through to find a pioneer cemetery a quarter of a mile away through the weeds. Ouch. Those ghost town videos that I just my vehicle hit the runs. Anyone who finds this shirt funny gets extra cool points. Love me when I turn this into the rental car place. Good. And what that is, I think they're making meth over there. It used to be red. Well, you don't know what to